Hello, my Walking Dead Road to Survival family. Welcome to The Road, our official podcast. My name's Mason, and Games and Visinerd, your community manager on The Road to Survival. If you want to know what's coming up, what we're working on, what is in development on The Road to Survival, this is the place to find out. The AMA edition of The Road. We're going to answer a bunch of questions that the community has brought up, not only on Discord, but things that we've heard over the last several months. And we're going to talk a little bit about the development roadmap. We're going to give you a little more context as to Faction Assault, a little sneak peek, maybe a little more of that map. What's to come? Find out in this podcast. Not only that, but a lot of the topics that the community has brought up recently will be discussed in this podcast, so stick around. We've got a couple of guests from a few different teams. We're going to talk with our roadmap team. They're kind of on the development side of things. We're also going to talk with a representative from our live ops team who is kind of more in charge of the day-to-day events, week to week, month to month, those kind of things. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so we'll be bouncing between our guests, getting answers to a lot of your questions. So let's get started. So we're joined by a couple of product managers now from the roadmap team. Hello and welcome back to Grendel, and welcome longtime team member Tatron to the podcast.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. Excited to talk to this team for a lot of different reasons, because there have been a lot of different questions from the community, and that's what we're here to do, is answer some of these questions. And a lot of them are about what's coming up, what's in development, what are we working on for the future. So let's start with a lot of things that we hear a lot about, quality of life updates. Let's talk about a few different things we can do to make players' lives easier.
Yeah. So we are currently working on kind of a whole mess load of stuff. And one of the best things about quality of life updates is they're a little quicker to come out usually, but we also want to make sure that we're doing things that really matter to you guys overall, you guys, the players. So one of the things that we've seen that we know everybody's really kind of wanting and looking forward to is an update or improvement rather to the mod system. I can't tell you how many times even I personally have had my mods open and I'm going to take them off one at a time and I'm realizing how tedious it is. So something we wanted to do for you guys is come up with a way to let you just pull them all off. So you can expect to see a button that will allow you to kind of just strip everything off coming in the near future to hopefully kind of speed up your interaction with those.
Any other things maybe in the roster side that could make players' lives easier as well?
Yeah, so one of the other problems is having to kind of dig through your teams to figure out, which is the right team for the team I'm about to attack, right? We know that with the release of the war defense teams, it can be a little bit of a struggle to dig for your 15th team to go against whichever specific defense team you're going up against. And so we're implementing a new feature that will allow you guys to reorder your teams and kind of have access to the teams that you're using the most, the quickest, and give you a way to get through your battles faster.
That's fantastic. And I hear that will be part of the upcoming Faction Assault update as well, which we'll talk more about toward the end of the podcast. Stay tuned for that. Let's talk about another question we hear a lot. Will the map be expanding? I know a lot of players are always looking for challenges when it comes to maybe getting more gear or finding more rewards. Are there any plans for that?
Yeah, I can address this. So this is come up from time to time. I think the biggest issue that we have with the campaign or adding any more additional story to it is that in reality, it's pretty long, and I think this is one of these cases where we're always thinking about, the experience for new players alongside the experience for people who've been at the game for a long time. And, in general, part of the reason we have not kind of prioritized this is just how much time players would have to invest to sort of reach those later parts of the story. So right now, I would say we're not really looking at adding anything more to the campaign. But one thing I can say, this maybe won't be the biggest thing for a lot of our players who've been around for a long time, but we are looking to kind of revitalize the campaign, rebalance it, and it's something that we have in the works. I can't say about exactly when that will come out, but my hope is that the rebalance will impact both newer players, but also people who are kind of farming later levels. And, we can potentially introduce ways to make that more meaningful rather than adding a lot of additional story. And And I just add that I think for a long time now, when we think about kind of building out the lore and the story of The Walking Dead, it's typically been something that the roadmap can do very effectively, right? Because it sort of lets people jump in at any point, whether they've gotten to the end of the campaign or not.
And I know that we just, as this podcast was released, we're doing a public beta and a brand new progression mission update as well, which will kind of help out with some of these concerns about rewards, maybe getting a bit of an update. Is that right?
Yeah, so to speak to kind of what Grendel was saying before, we are looking at a potential campaign rebalance in the future, but as a step one for kind of preparing for that, we wanted to rework a lot of what the game will look like for our newer players when they first come in. And so what is coming out in this public beta is our new progression missions. Essentially what that is a whole new set of missions that should guide our newer players kind of throughout the game, all the way from the beginning of the story, all the way until the end of it. And essentially the idea here is we want to not only kind of guide players through, but also give them their first team that they can take into all the various features in the game. We believe that the team that they'll be able to get that way is also going to be decent for their first war team. And so giving them kind of a strong set of rewards versus what we used to give, which was, clearly very out of date, we're hoping will help a lot of the newer folks get up to speed and be able to participate with our elder players in kind of the later game. And then simultaneously with this, we also felt that it was really important to give everybody access to these missions right off the bat, not necessarily block certain players out of getting them. And so all players, as they work through the progression missions, will be able to get all 5 fighters for the team, as well as the completion fighter, Maggie Green, by the end. And I'm personally really excited about Maggie. I know giving everybody one extra defense fighter to go on your defense teams hopefully kind of helps everyone move in the right direction. So I'm really, really excited for everybody to get their hands on her once they get through the progression missions. And then the last piece I would say is there's also going to be a ton of consumables that everyone will be able to get. So there's going to be trainers, there's going to be food, there's going to be just all sorts of stuff, military supplies. And so hopefully that can kind of help everybody get their rosters a little further in if you're later in the game, or get this new team up to date if you're at the beginning.
I know a lot of players initially heard we're putting in new missions that will help new players, but this is going to help everybody in the end. And you'll get a gold mythic, all 5 copies at the end of a highly requested gold mythic edition of Maggie Green. So thank you.
Yeah, exactly. One other piece to touch on there too is we have new and reactivated player roadmaps that specifically our new players or our returning players who left us a while ago will be able to come back and kind of get some additional consumables as well to help them get caught up even faster than they normally would have if they only had these progression missions. So hopefully with this, we'll see more players joining kind of the end game and getting to war and getting to enjoy the part of the game that we know everybody loves.
And maybe if your friends haven't played in a while, they should pop back in.
Exactly.
Big thank you to our roadmap department, who doesn't just work on the roadmap section of the game. They're actually the development roadmap part of the team. They're going to be the ones working on things like quality of life updates and faction assault, developing them and getting them implemented into the game. That's just one part of many teams that we have. Another part is the day-to-day operations, the week-to-week events, the month-to-month mythic trials, war seasons, and the like. For that, we meet our guest from the Live Ops team. We're joined now, and correct me if I'm wrong, by lead product manager for performance representing the Live Ops team, the Big Easy. Welcome back. Good to talk to you.
How you doing, Invisiter? Good
Doing
to talk
well.
to you too.
Thank you. Wanted to talk about some of these points that a lot of players have been asking about, and we've seen community feedback about some of these before. Some of these responses you're going to hear are discussions we've had previously with like members of the Players Council, but I think this is a great time for us to answer these questions on a more broad scale now that we've got the Outlanders update and War of Champions in the rearview mirror. Let's talk about a few things. Big questions come up all the time. First, let's talk about that Outlanders update and the introduction of ultra recruits and advanced recruits. A question a lot of players asking about their coins is why did we do all of this? Why did this happen? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, the main reason why we did this is that we want to provide players better value toward, or like that pathway towards the content they desire in a way that's really more aligned with our business. And we do realize we want to ensure all our players, not just players at the top end, but even including free play players, that they have a realistic path towards the really cool characters in our game. You know, you may not be able to get everything all at once, but you know, if you work hard enough, you can at least save up for and pick and choose what you desire. And one of the key things was like switching to this new system, moving away from coins, allows us to provide player value in terms of like these recent events that you guys have, the Ultra Token, the July 4th We Can Do It event, or the Wanderer event that gave away the advanced tokens, or even the tokens in the level up tournaments. We could never do that provide players that kind of value the way we could with coins, because just because of the way coins were designed in our game from its inception.
And I know that players can look forward to our upcoming anniversary as one. We've already kind of said when the Outlanders update went down, we were going to have the ultra recruit tokens and things like our anniversary event that's coming up. So look forward to that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, so yeah, definitely stay tuned for our anniversary. There's going to be some cool things coming your way. And in that vein of the ultra and advanced tokens, you know, once again, I can't imagine, or I can't remember a time period in the past when we're, you know, with these premier coin gotchas even before that, where we launch an event which basically gives away, imagine us giving away a 40 pool or 240 pools worth of coins in it for free at an event. It's unheard of. So it's something that it gave us the ability to give players value in this manner, in a way that doesn't hurt our business, because how the design inflexibility of coins, is probably a horrible word, but you know what I mean.
I do. We're doing gate level stuff, right? Like it could be a gate if it happened in the old world, but now it's by design.
Exactly. And also think of it this way, because we can, you know, our game evolves, right? It's what I envisioned for this was coins wasn't really a good method for like the everyday player to farm, to save up to obtain the characters. I think maybe if you were on the top end, placing first in diamond leagues or whatnot to get your coins, or, you know, engaging, you know, purchasing those tap joy offers or something like that, or if you're at the top prestige level after spending thousands of dollars, you can engage with those scavenger missions, coin missions. Like, sure, you can farm some coins, but for the everyday player, coins wasn't really a valuable path to obtain the content you want. And think of a world where you're kind of like any other gacha game that you play, right? There's these free events that give you these currencies. It's super special. You can save up and not wait 6 months down the line for a promo character that you want to come back in an event, but you can actually save up and pick and choose a new promo that comes out, right? So that day. So once again, like, you're not going to get everything, but you can pick and choose and get the right promo launch and go for the content that you want, or you can save up and wait for it to come back in the future in the same manner. Yeah, I think it just gives us more flexibility to give players value in ways that doesn't harm our business, especially because that's kind of what we were doing in the past, probably for years. And also in a way that felt unfair to players who weren't able to really farm for coins in that manner. Even in the old world where, you know, before this change, if you're a free-to-play player, you never really had an opportunity to get something first when everyone else got it, you know? And what I mean by that is everything we did, like content would be released, a character would be released, and then you'd have to wait, right? You know, you have to wait for it to be released. And at least now, that doesn't always have to be the case. Once again, just like any game, you're not going to get everything you want when something's launched, but you can pick and choose your battles within a reasonable time frame and choose that character and kind of show off what you have to everyone at the same time that everyone else is getting it, right? So, you know, just kind of pick and choose, but at least you have that choice for players. You're not kind of like just force fit everything that we give you. you can choose what you want to go for over time.
I think what we want to do in this podcast is provide a little context to some of the things that we've seen the community talking about, open the curtain a little bit to kind of show everybody what we're working on behind the scenes, what's in development, and hopefully give a little more insight as to what's ahead on the road to survival. We have a lot of features to cover, so let's get started with the roadmap team as they'll talk about the development side of them, and we'll also go back to chatting with Big Easy as well from the live ops side about how to operate these things from day to day. And we'll finish up with a bit more of a discussion and a little sneak peek at the new Faction Assault. So we get a lot of questions about a lot of different portions of the game. Like, we're going to talk about Faction Assault. A lot of players have been asking about that. We'll talk about that update coming up. We get asked about an update to Survival Road. We get asked about when Hordes is going to come back. And since we have the roadmap team here, let's talk a little bit about some of those features in need of an update or a refresh. Can you speak to that, Grendel?
Yes, definitely. All right. So this one's a doozy. I think when I think about this question, I think the reality is that we just have a lot of features. And, over the years, some features I think have kept pace with the game. There have been some new features that we've introduced that have been, kind of more appropriate for their time, and some that really just kind of fell by the wayside. And, obviously Faction Assault, we'll talk about it more, but that's one that I've felt strongly for a while. Needs to be brought back into the fold. But, we're always talking about the other features and when we can get to them. And I think, you listed off a bunch, and I'll kind of just give a glimpse as to like where some of these things stand, how we're kind of thinking about them. But, of course, we just, don't know when we will address some of the different features. So I think Survival Road's a great one because, it's pretty high on our list of features that we want to revisit. I don't know if we will revisit it quite at the same level of sort of like reimagining that we are for Faction Assault, but it is definitely one that we want to get to sooner rather than later, at the bare minimum, to kind of bring it up to mythic level, to have rewards that feel meaningful, make it feel challenging again. I think Walker Tech is something that we are thinking about as like a big improvement for the roadmap feature. Now, obviously the roadmap feature has like a lot of pieces to it. And it's actually done very well over the years in terms of like providing fresh experiences. But I think we do want to make sure that that one doesn't ever sort of like kind of lose its place. And so we do have a lot of new ideas planned to sort of introduce different kinds of challenges in roadmap. I think that will be a very exciting kind of future for roadmap. And then I think when we think about some of the things like Walker Hordes, maybe the future is not so bright. I think the reality for Walker Hordes is, it's been a pretty long time since it's been out there, and reviews for it have always been kind of mixed. I mean, I think how people were playing it back then, how people kind of think about it these days, is a very interesting experience that I think we would have to do a lot to it to bring it back. And I think right now the reality is we'll not be bringing it out anytime soon. And so I guess we think of this as sort of like ripping off the Band-Aid. I would basically say Walker Hordes is probably not going to see the light of day very soon. But, I think we do have others that we're thinking about a lot. I mean, raids is another feature, for example, that right now I think it fills an important role, I think, for players, especially as they kind of like get into PvP and whatnot. But I think there is room for growth there. So that's something that we're looking at in the future, and I think for any other feature, I mean, we're always kind of like, brainstorming and, kind of getting in there and playing ourselves and kind of thinking like, okay, what can we do here? And so hopefully we'll have a lot more to say in the future.
No, that's great to hear. And to be honest, not knowing, not much better than hearing some of this news. And in an AMA, you're going to get some answers you want, and you're going to get some answers that maybe you weren't looking to hear. So I appreciate at least having a bit of an answer on it. There's a lot of talk in between weekends of war, or when we're on a hiatus from a war season, about kind of a polarizing game mode. Some people really like the relaxed feel of an Onslaught. Some others not really looking for it, but the feedback about having some things happening when war isn't happening, like Onslaught, is always ongoing. Are there any plans for Onslaught to return?
I would say, yeah, I think that the team has been looking into, we have been discussing and looking into ways we can bring Onslaught back in a way that feels more rewarding and fun, because we know traditionally Onslaught has been a bit polarizing. Like we hear the Onslaught um comments from a section of players. Like you said, some players like it, some players hate it. Um and I think we're just looking for a way to bring that back with better rewards in a way that feels meaningful for players to grind towards, and also maybe some tweaks to the gameplay that feels a little bit more fun and appeals to more kind of tiers of player, in terms of like, how there's something for players that want to do something a little bit more casual and relaxed, and also, but there's some milestones for players to hit that want to kind of go crazy, right, and really engage hard. So I will say yes, we want to, and we're looking on bringing back Onslaught, and so I would definitely stay tuned.
Other updates that players I think have been talking about or looking to discuss are like the league store and the season store. These are things now, I know we've talked about this in player council meetings. Obviously, the player council has brought that up. They hear that from the community. But I don't think everybody realizes how deep it is when you want to get that. And I think that you did a great job of explaining a little bit of the depth that goes into just throwing something new into the store. Like we hear, flip the switch, it's easy, right? It's not. I know nothing about coding and all of that, but I think it's probably a good point for us to kind of explain a little bit here in this podcast about league stores and things like that.
Yeah, I think we've definitely heard the feedback, and in terms of the league store, right? We have been discussing like the ways in which we can kind of update that in the best way. So don't have anything to share right now, but we are looking into how we can update that to make that the rewards a little bit more relevant for the current state of the game. So no news right now, but yeah, we're looking into it.
Gotcha. And the other depots that go along with it, I remember you explaining that it's not just the depot, it's the feature the depot is attached to and the currency and how the sourcing goes, just so players understand that there's no magic wall of switches. I want to make sure everyone understands.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that, I wish we had better levers to kind of update that store. But it's something that we're kind of digging into the best way we can do so we can update that. But yeah, stay tuned. Like not only just the league store, like you said, like some of the depots, whether it be the supply depot or the survival road depot. Like we're looking into how we can update that in the best way.
Another ongoing piece of feedback that I always see players talking about are the rewards that come in various parts of the game, be that recurring tournaments or milestones. And I know while we're in it, players may not see the broader picture because we take it tournament by tournament. Little things change here and there. But in the broader picture, if you zoom out, we really have done a lot of updating to some of these rewards in like the level ups by adding these new currencies, haven't we, Easy?
Yeah, exactly. Like we definitely want players like day-to-day, moment-to-moment gameplay to be more meaningful, especially in the tournaments. We do know we haven't done the best job of like providing relevant rewards in some of these tournaments, like level ups. So I think level ups is one thing we wanted to really identify first, and with the inclusion of the advanced tokens in those milestones, and making it a little bit more engaging to obtain those advanced tokens. So hopefully it's something that players value, that they can at least map out, like on a day-to-day basis, I kind of do this activity, and then they can kind of see a roadmap of like how many tokens that they can obtain over a period of time and save for like new advanced recruit promos that are released in the future or come back in the future. So yeah, I think that's important.
And going along the lines of seeing ultra tokens in 4th of July and the upcoming anniversary, those advanced tokens you mentioned, the Outlanders has been amazing. I think a lot of players were extremely positive about War Reforged. We're on a good path of some really positive feedback for some really good events. And I know that, like I said, I'm a player, I'm in it. When I'm leveling up, I'm going, I said, did I just get a full pull on the advanced wheel from this week? I think I did. And it kind of surprises you at some point. So I wanted to make sure when players are asking for these rewards, they know that we do see it. And if you zoom out a little bit, they are getting better.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing, don't want to go, sorry for going a little bit of a tangent. Like you talked about getting excited about getting pulls on these wheels. Like another thing we really wanted to do is to make the gacha wheels feel special, not just for the 0.5% of players in our game, but for everyone in our game, right? Like every pull you do, there's an opportunity for you to potentially get something valuable, right? And there's a meaningful pathway. And what I mean by that is like you're engaging in these events to get the pulls that put you on that pathway to get the content you want, whether you get lucky through the by the help of the RNG gods, like as some players would say, or you know maybe you get a little unlucky, but you still hit those safety nets in terms of the guarantee. Like we want everyone to look forward to these wheels, right? So because that's how they're gonna get the best content in the game, and that could be someone that spends $0 or someone that spends however many dollars. So yeah, I just want to kind of add that in.
Yeah, you're 100% right, because I am and have been a player that spends, and I see that I have to spend less if I can grind towards these, and I have been a player that doesn't spend, and I see I can hoard my way to finding whatever that next tune is that I see that grabs me, and I think that's fantastic, and I think we're on a great path, and I think and I even think there were PC members who said, you should be letting people know that this is the path and what we're doing. And so if I can speak on behalf of the Players Council, I think this is the way that we should be and want to be going in the future. So with that, Easy, I thank you very much for your time today and joining us on the podcast. Appreciate it. And we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks, Ambassador. Talk to you later.
Let's talk about Inner Circle. We see a lot of questions still about a feature that we shelved a while back. Any updates?
Yeah, so not necessarily the biggest or most exciting update about the Inner Circle, but it's something that we haven't forgotten about. I think when we first showed off what it was, there was a lot of concern from the audience about how much of a kind of like long-term power imbalance it could create from elder players to newer players to people at different levels of engagement. And when we heard that, at first we thought it was such a great idea, but we realized the more we got into it that no, the audience is definitely onto something there with what their concerns were. And so, we really like the look of the interface of it. We think it's really pretty, but we don't necessarily think that we want to put it out in the way that we had initially shown it off. So without kind of saying exactly what we're thinking about in terms of what we'll do with it, it's not dead. We're going to find a way to bring it back to make it better and to make it something that is less of a concern and more of a point of excitement for you guys in the future. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have some more to share on that in the future.
So let's talk about a question that gets asked often about various parts, not necessarily where you're playing, but different things like the 30-day coin pass or some of the gear that's in the depots. Maybe it's a little outdated, maybe an update to Survivors Club. Some of these other things, they're not necessarily like raids or Onslaught, but they're more or less things that players will be using regularly that could use a refresh. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, that's also a great question. Very, very similar, I think, to how we think about like the different features, some of which are a little bit kind of like lost in the mists. So we do have a lot of items in the game or things like the 30-day coin pass that just are not what they once were. And I think we are always looking at those things, trying to figure out like when we can tackle them. It really just ends up being kind of like when we can slot in a little bit of time to sort of rethink it. But bottom line, I would say, is that we have our eye on all of those things. And in time, we intend to kind of address each of these sort of pain points. I think 30 coin pass is a great example where I think, one, we have to think about the value. And I think, two, we have to get I think there's a 5-star Carl in that one, if I'm not mistaken. We definitely need to have a character that people want. And, I think same goes for Survivors Club. We're always kind of making little tweaks to Survivors Club, but the one thing that we haven't ever really addressed is the fact that, like Ascended Andrea is there, and definitely not a character people are demanding right now. So, and I think when we have a chance to get to those, it'll be about trying to find the right character for that particular situation. As for the gear and the shop, yep. I mean, I think we will eventually get to address it all. I mean, for now, yeah, it's something to kind of like wade through. Definitely, that's like old things you don't really need at all. But yeah, in time, I expect that we'll be able to kind of, have a full cleanup pass. We'll get to it.
Thanks for that. I appreciate it. I know it's a lot of work, especially when you see the list, right? It comes into, I don't know if we could do anything for 6 months if we wanted to address a full list of some of this stuff. It takes a lot of time, like Faction Assault, which earlier this year, we talked about getting a big update, a refresh. We've even seen a little sneak peek. So let's talk about it. Can we get a progress report? Can we talk a little bit about Faction Assault, the update?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're getting pretty close. I can give like a sense of one, what we're doing with Faction Assault, and two, kind of what to expect in the future. So, we are gearing up for a beta where players will have a chance to kind of get in, test out the new Faction Assault. We're going to look for feedback. I think it's going to be, it's a pretty big feature to be kind of reintroducing to the world, and getting the balance right for it. It's going to be really important that we nail that. So that is kind of on the horizon in terms of kind of what we're doing and what players can expect from Faction Assault. So, obviously it's a really awesome feature that has been, I think kind of the history of the game. It's always been one of these things that people kind of talk about, the great experiences that they used to have, but not lately, because it's just been unplayable for a long time, in fact. Right. And, I think when I think about this particular revamp, right, the first most obvious thing is just the difficulty and the rewards, right? Like, there's no sense in having this feature where like even your weakest mythic character can kind of solo the highest difficulty. And then of course, there's really just nothing in there that people value highly enough. So that of course will be addressed, right? I mean, it's going to be a mythic experience, and it's going to have meaningful rewards. Now, I can't say too much because we're still kind of working the details out there, but rest assured that will be well worth people's time, and it will be an enjoyable challenge for people. So that's a big deal. Second thing, I mean, very exciting. We are going to have a new boss, right? Now, we'll still have Negan. Negan will still be there. The tank looks awesome. People still get to fight the tank, but we will have a new boss. We'll have more to say about that in the future. But, we basically felt that, hey, if we're going to revamp this feature, make a bunch of changes to it, we also want to have something that is just really kind of visually like the signature element of this revamp. And so the new boss is basically going to be that. And the new boss will have new mini bosses. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And I can't wait until we have more to reveal there. A few other little things that I think are hopefully people will like. So rewards no longer will be parceled out based on how you did on the leaderboard. I think this is something that almost instantly people were like, please get rid of that. It's the worst thing in the world. And I basically agree. I think the new system, people will be rewarded better for being stronger, right? For if their personal power level is stronger, and having, awesome teams, building the right kinds of teams to sort of, deal with the different bosses. That'll make a difference in terms of how much you can earn. But there will never be a situation where you're earning less because someone else is earning more. It's absolutely going to be, it's all about how awesome you can make your teams. And now you will work together, right? I think we've also looked at ways to sort of improve a player's kind of individual sense of agency, right? Because I think another thing with Faction Assault, maybe this is not a big thing for a lot of our current players, but for new players, if you just wanted to try it, you can, right? Because your faction leader is not actually going to start Faction Assault for you. And so one of the changes will be, in general, kind of a restructuring of Faction Assault so that people can do what they want when they want, right? Now, if you want the best rewards, you're going to have to work together, right? You will have to plan with your faction what's the best way to tackle each of these bosses. But it's not going to be at the level it was before, where people were kind of scheduling like, hey, I'm going to jump in, like come in 5 minutes after me or something like that. Like that should be way in the past. It should be a whole lot easier, I think, for people to collaborate. But we still do want that to be a part, because I think that is, kind of the central element of what makes Faction Assault different from other features is the element of working together and kind of having that one common goal, like chipping away at the boss's health. So that'll still be there. It'll just be a lot easier to work together to do that. So that's kind of what we have for now. I do think we will have much more to say in the near future, and I can't wait to share more.
Very excited to hear more and get to play it, like you said, in a beta that's coming up. So stick around for that. Make sure you're checking the web portal for the blog and more information to come. Grendel, Tatron, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Huge thank you once again to all the guests who join us. We'd love to hear your feedback about all the topics we discussed here in this podcast. Share the video with your faction mates. Love to hear their feedback as well. Join the conversation on our official Discord. Let us know how you're feeling. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter and get us on Facebook as well from the links in the description of this video. Thank you again for watching and listening. Hopefully, we'll see you again soon. Don't forget to leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you want to catch more from the official Walking Dead Road to Survival YouTube channel. We do weekly updates here, keeping you up to date with all the news and events each Monday and more here on the YouTube channel.